Welcome back to the Clare Champion Special General Election Preview. I'm joined by former Director of Elections for Dr. Michael Harty and James Breen, Eugene Drennan. I'm also joined by Councillor Anne Norton, Independent, who contested the last general election, and former Green Party member, Councillor Brian Meaney. At the last section there, we were discussing the prospects of Roisin Garvey. And Brian, you were probably in the unenviable position of being a Green Party councillor and maybe being derided for some of your views in the past, and now these are being seen as kind of more mainstream environmental measures. Is there a dilemma there for Roisin in terms of some of the national policies and local policies in a rural constituency like Clare?
There certainly is, and it has something that has always existed. You have the hierarchy of the party is urban-based, generally Dublin-based, and they have come out with some ridiculous statements that have seriously impacted on candidates in rural areas, and I'll be more specific, in areas outside of Dublin. If I recall, the rewilding of Ireland with the reintroduction of the wolves, for example, proposed by Mr. Ryan, certainly has not helped Roisin. And as well as that, you have the whispering campaigns that are all part and parcel of an election campaign as well. Yeah. Because that is what happens on the doors. It has come back to me when I was knocking on doors that we weren't going voting for me because I was going to stop the hurling. I'm not sure what it meant, but that is what somebody was told and believed. So it's multiplied significantly. The impact of the urban-rural divide, the fact that the Greens are seen as a Dublin party. There are differences, but it's significantly increased by the whispering campaign that takes place on the door. And I'd say, I'm not sure what parties engage in it, but it's, you know, the way the electorate works. It's fear, and it's rumours, and that will make up the reasons why. They'll find reasons not to vote.
At the local elections there, Councillor P.J. Ryan told me that in the Shannon Municipal District, he was struck by the number of people at the door who brought up the environment. Have you got any sense of that, Eugene, in terms of what we call it a green wave?
Yes, for sure, you know, and people have taken on board the environment, and young people in particular are very much aware of the environment and the Winton process of Dublin. But since the Winton process in Dublin, I don't see many people cycling to school in Innis or walking trails, you know. So they like it to a degree, but have they gone the full way? I'm not so sure. As regards the Green Party here in Clare, and there is a green wave, and they've got a great candidate in Roisin Garvey. She's personable. She absolutely believes in what she says, and she brings that fervency of belief with her statements. But the cost of the Greens in the last coalition they were in, and irrespective of the country going down the tubes, they just wanted their agenda and didn't respect cost. And I think the bushfires in Australia, the Greens are getting a fair hammer internationally.
Can I just interject there? People who say, will the Greens go into government again? Absolutely, the Greens will go into government again, because they are people who firmly believe in action that needs to be taken sooner rather than later to try and avoid an impending catastrophe that will render the planet, you know.
That's reasonable in your global ideology, but the factual on the ground for relevance to people here in Clare, and the fact that they've now come out against live experts, I'd say will really impinge on their vote. Now she will still have a good vote, a reasonable vote. She's a good candidate, good background, political family, but to get it fully over the line, I don't see it.
And maybe if we just turn to the independents there, because we focus on the bigger parties there in the first two segments there of the programme. How difficult is it when you don't have a party behind you? Like in your case, you had to juggle with, say, being obviously a carer, a mother, you're running Clare Crusaders, and then maybe try to fundraise and canvass as well. How difficult is the system geared against an independent, and should there be more grant funding for independents?
It is definitely more difficult, but then you have to actually look at what Dr. Michael Harty had, and he did have huge as they call, machine behind him.
That was probably unique though, like it's not really a typical example of a, like he had a movement, he had a group of doctors behind him, but
absolutely,
he was independent. On the bad of what I'm saying is that he's not really a typical independent.
No, but the other side of that is James Breen was before him, and again you look at there's obviously, I think a few people need to rub up against Eugene for a bit of luck.
I should have asked me that question.
But you know, when you see the support that is actually out there for maybe one candidate, it is without a shadow of a doubt, it is definitely more difficult as an independent. You do have the financial aspect of it, and you really do need to have groups of people all over the whole of the county. You'd nearly want to have somebody in every town and village that knows you quite well, so that they actually can speak for you. You know, no matter what, you are going up against the parties. People, there is a lot of older politics out there that's, you know, people still believe in. You have the Fianna Fáils, you have the Fine Gaels, even the younger generation. You know, they do still listen to what their parents have to say. They're still listening to, you know, the family background. And Patricia said that earlier. You know, there is, I would say, you know, you look at the likes of the Green Party, it isn't a huge party, but they still have, you know, the support out there. There is a lot of younger people behind the likes of the Greens now, but they're maybe too young and they might not be at the age to vote yet. But you can be very lucky, I think, around an election, and sometimes, you know, the luck can be with you, but it is definitely more difficult as an independent.
Looking at the three independents, we have a new entrant there, Trudy Layden, who I understand is a Fine Gael, a former Fine Gael activist. We have obviously Michael McNamara, and we have Joseph Wool. So you actually have two farmers. Now, obviously the farming vote wouldn't be strong enough to elect someone, but if all the farmers came behind a candidate, you could have a kind of a Dr. Harty effect, or you could have, it would make a big difference to them. So do you believe that Michael McNamara, that would be a boost to him? In terms of former Labour, he's also a farmer. There's obviously huge frustration out there because of the price of beef.
Which part of boost him, Dan? I didn't quite get that.
In the farming,
that Wolf ran, or that if he was left on his own?
If he was left on his own, obviously the fact that Joe Wolf is going as beef plant chairman, he's going to garner a certain level of the vote. We'll say for the farming vote. But what I'm saying is, given the frustration that's out there in amongst farmers, and they're a key part of the rural community. If some candidate could tap into that,
correct,
and could that make a difference?
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, it could, of course, and to a certain extent, Joe Wool's vote may be the kingmaker here. And if Michael McNamara can identify in any way with his vote, or what is perceived to be his vote, certainly it would come in at the right time for him, I would think, and it could be a kingmaker for him. You asked earlier about Michael Harty's vote and where it should go to, and I think Joseph Wolf will be the recipient of a fair block of that because of his location, and also because of the rural divide and the area that areas. The amount of his vote that would go back to the parties will be reasonable, but it won't be huge. You know, it will be a trickle here and there in hundreds, but it was an 8,500 first preference, a very, very credible vote. And Michael McNamara would be posed to get the lion's share, I would think. He would appeal to the voter. That voter, he would become an area he was elected before, but whether it's enough to do what he needs done is another question.
In the last election, his first preference, I think, almost halved. Now, at that stage, he was under the Labour banner. We don't have a Labour candidate in this election at this time I was ever recording. Will he pick up much Labour vote? Or is it a personal?
No, he will pick up whatever Labour votes that's out there. It will still attach to him, I would say. He will definitely pick up, you know, sort of a certain amount of professional vote and sort of an intellectual vote a bit. I think he's some good work done in Shannon, so perhaps he will get a reasonable amount out of there. Other than that, for a man who had intended running and with a reasonable chance, and he's still there with a reasonable chance, but has he got into the race in time built momentum behind him, got a clip in his step, and people hear him and see him. That I feel he's lacking that a little bit.
Okay, you think that his late entry to the race could come against him?
It was always expected, but he should have got it out there. Yes.
Okay. And would that be the case too with Trudy, that with the best will, like regardless, she might have been very, involved in politics and that,
yes.
But it is difficult to winning a seat, as you probably know from being involved in campaigns.
Well, reflecting on what Anne just said there, for Trudy, I don't know what platform she's standing on. She's a Fine Gael background, I believe. And what is her mandate? What is her platform? Firstly, and secondly, how does it relate? Whatever platform she's coming on, how does it relate county-wide? It's okay here in the urban centre of Ennis. Does it reflect anywhere else? When always, and for every election, and I remember the original James Breen campaign, it's no harm to let it be known now, but I put out a very different pamphlet in the south of the county than the one I put out in the north of the county. Okay. Because the relevance, it was too relevant. The county hospital in Ennis had no significance in Harty.
Okay. As it goes back to what I said earlier in the first part of the programme, all politics is local.
Well, it reflects local, and it is mainly local. It's local, it's your pocket, it's perception, a fair bit of it, the media perception of the national, and then people get to thinking, and it's the personality then and party.
People Before Profit candidate Teresa O'Donoghue, Brian, she's a resident there in Lisdoonvarna. She's very involved in promoting environmental issues. In North Clare, we have a strong field there. You obviously have Roisin Garvey, you'll have Senator Martin Conway. So she'll kind of split the vote as well. What do you think her impact might be?
I don't think it's going to register significantly. Okay. She will get an element of a strong vote, but her profile isn't significantly high on the run. It is very rare for a candidate to come out of nowhere 3 weeks out from an election. As you said earlier, Dan, it takes a lot of effort to win a seat if you're not one of the member of the stronger parties. I ran in 4 general elections. There was only one of them where I might have had a ghost of a chance. That was 2007. I seemed to be registering on a polls as maybe possible for the last seat. But all of those elections, the main focus was in 99 and in 2002. The primary reason was to increase profile so that you were in the hunt for a county council seat. And that did work. So there will always be candidates who will come very late with some notion that they're going to present a policy package that the electorate will accept. It does happen. I think the most significant one was a man called Tom Gilday in Donegal, who ran on a television aerials issue and won a seat. Now, what was significant about that was I think he holds the record for never once having spoken in Dáil Éireann, and I think he was referred to as the Teletubby. So there can be aberrations, but my own assessment of it, standing back looking at it, I think there's 2 extremely strong Fianna Fáil candidates. One who has wrapped the flag significantly tightly around himself to be even able to undermine a Sinn Féin candidate. And you have 2 extremely strong Fine Gael candidates. And their strength is in the constituency offices. They have significantly worked on for the last 10 to 15 years. And we know them. I know Mary in one, in Pats, we know Kathleen. And they're mighty, mighty workers for the people. And they have been out and about. And these are the strengths. This is what you have to work with. I would think that Councillor Crowe and Rita McInerney haven't had that. So again, as has been said, Rita may begin to register if the West Clare start to rally around her. But you had a situation in the last election where the Fine Gael, Mr. Carey, for example, was significantly his vote was reduced because there was a lot of competition in Ennis. You had Mary Howard, you had Anne, you had Clare County, and he didn't have a lot of elbow room in Ennis.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think he is going to have a lot of elbow room. There will be a very honed memory of the threat that came to Joe Carey's seat, which came out in your poll, and suddenly Fine Gael moved, corralled their vote. That honed memory will say, we can't allow that to happen to Joe again. So if they manage to manage the vote, I think it's either going to be 2-2 or else I would say 3-1.
Wow.
With the...
Who's in that tree, party-wise?
I think that Fine Gael will be the 3.
See, there is something happening. There's something you pick up stuff. You know the way if one person says something to you, but if 3 people have said something to you in a and they're unrelated, it's statistics. People have said to me, we're sick of the uncertainty that comes with our electoral system. They looked at Boris Johnson's whopping 80-seat majority and they said, why can't we have that? I've seen younger people say to me...
No, I disagree with you.
No, but can I just...
No.
Younger people have said to me, the only one that has spoken about my situation, and I know a good few people are in the situation who are living at home with their parents because they can't afford rent and they are working, and they're the hidden homeless. The hidden homeless who are on very low money. The only person that has ever once referenced them, they feel, is Leo Varadkar. And
what do you think? And just give it on the end in terms of the Ennis, could Ennis play a huge role?
Absolutely, and I think that's where Joe has his advantage. I think he doesn't have competition in and around the Ennis Municipal District, and it is quite a big area. And I do believe that if people actually want a candidate, it will be Joe Carey. No matter what, Martin Conway is still a good candidate. I think he has a lot of potential. I'm not sure, again, we have to be wary of the fact, was there damage done around the local elections in North Clare? Will he suffer because of that? I believe Pat Breen, there is no question that Pat will get a seat, and I would be of the opinion Tim Dooley will be the same. I still think, in Clare, there's always something happens on the day to surprise us. So whether it's the 3 Fine Gael seats, which is kind of hard to imagine, but to be honest, I don't think we have a fantastic lineup with the candidates that have actually declared. A lot of them are unknown, to the people, and that is going to cause a problem.
We could, on the day of the count, Clare Champion will have a special live streaming, so people will be able to tune in to see the surprises, all the highs and lows. And I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me today for the Clare Champions special general election preview. Thank you.